I call to order the regular meeting of the Lakewood City Council for January 11th, 2016, our first of the new year. So welcome. Thank you for coming out or tuning in. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Paul?
Here.
Shakti?
Here.
Abel? Johnson?
Here.
Wickman? Franks?
Here.
Harrison?
Here.
Gutwein?
Here.
Coop?
Here.
Vincent?
Here.
Roybal?
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right. At this time, if you wouldn't mind, if you have a cell phone, maybe turn it to silent or on vibrate, and we'll get going. Are there any Boy Scouts in the crowd tonight? No? All right. Well, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then we'll go into a moment of silent prayer. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. So this is the point in the meeting where the public is invited to address the City Council on items that did not appear on the agenda. All comments should be directed to the City Council. I ask that all in attendance observe the decorum of the City Council chambers and refrain from applause or audible support or discord with the speaker. There's a 3-minute time limit, and you'll see the little lights down here will go green, and then halfway, or with about a minute left or 30 seconds left, it looks like they'll turn yellow, and then when your time's up, red. And so we'll ask you to please wrap up your comments then. And if you didn't get a chance to sign up, you'll have a chance to speak as well. And it looks like Mr. Vaughn, come on down. Welcome. It's been a while.
My name is Newt Vaughn, and we live in Ward 5. And congratulations and condolences to those of you who got elected for the first time on this council. I'm here to comment tonight about a job I held for 12 years with the Jefferson County Public School System. I retired as a bus driver, and I watched the behavior of kids go from bad to worse. If we continue to let our kids get away with the things they're getting away with in our schools today, we're not going to be able to educate them. It isn't going to be possible. There's nothing being done. And the parents, some of the parents are just as bad as the kids. They call up the service specialists and chew them out because the bus isn't on time or leaves too early and the kids miss it or something. When the weather is bad, the bus is not going to be on time. I heard one service specialist get chewed out for a bus that left the stop on time because her little darling missed it. Even the officer that took the report on the abuse, the telephone abuse, saw the bus at the stop sign at the time that it was supposed to be there. I'm encouraging the school district and employees of the school district tonight to start filing charges on these people for assault and the kids for assault for verbal abuse and the type of things that they're having to put up with. And I wish that we could get something done, but we went too far with this so-called Believe the Children. The worst sign I ever saw was Believe the Children. They'll tell the truth when it's convenient. And you can believe it. I saw it. I've got firsthand experience. I was asked the other night if I missed the job. I missed the camaraderie. I missed actually driving the kids, but I don't miss their behavior. It's out of control. You want a good sports program, you want a good music program, every one of them commanded discipline and respect. And that's where the good programs are. And I'll tell you one thing, these kids are in band. Their parents make a whale of a commitment. I've watched them donate a lot of time. If more parents were like that, we may not have the problems we have today. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Vaughn. Thanks for coming out tonight. Is there anybody else who did not sign up and would like to come down? Mr. Fox, come on down. Ms. Greer, check the lights. They weren't. Okay. Thank you.
Welcome to the new members of council. It's glad to be able to address you. I don't really have a comment. I just have some questions about some of the news items that have been in the paper recently about the Federal Center, since the federal government decided not to go forward with their offer to Lakewood. What will be the city's involvement in what will happen next? Will the city have a say in it? Will this be just something turned over or just sold to a private contractor, and how that's going to work out, and how the city's going to get involved and make progress for the city? And the second issue is regarding the housing of the youth at the Federal Center. I know you've had some questions, Adam, about that, and it was kind of a surprise to everyone, what that's going to mean to Lakewood, and is that going to be a drain on our resources, or the city, the county, or what, since this is a location within the city? So just those questions. I hope that someone can address them later on.
Certainly. Thanks, Mr. Fox. Anybody else in chambers? All right. I will close public comment. And for part one of Mr. Fox's questions, I'll ask Ms. Hodson to answer.
Yes, thank you. So yes, as you know, the negotiation with the federal government has ended on the 59-acre property, otherwise known as the Horseshoe property. We anticipate going into an executive session first before we have a public conversation, an executive session that you would have a chance to direct staff in terms of if the city has any further action as relates to this property, if it does, what that might be, or that there is no further action requested of the city. So those conversations need to be held first in confidence because of the nature of a potential negotiation, and we're hoping to do that quickly. We're hoping, frankly, to schedule that tomorrow. So stay tuned for that information. We'd like to do that quickly so staff can give you a briefing. You can direct staff accordingly, and then we'll be able to have a conversation publicly so that all of these questions that people have and the concern that people have about this particular parcel can be discussed publicly. So stay tuned for that. And then, Mr. Mayor, you might want to answer the one about the unaccompanied minors.
Thank you, Ms. Hodson. Well, Mr. Fox, we don't have very good answers for you tonight on either. But in relation to the federal government's choice to choose the Denver Federal Center as a site, we have limited information at this point. It's a federal program operated by Health and Human Services. Congressman Perlmutter has been working hard with our group to try to get more information in ways of a public conversation that they would host. We haven't gotten there yet, but we're still trying to work on that so that they can have a community conversation and let the community know exactly what's going on. There's a lot of questions like you just mentioned, and we're hopeful to get somebody on board to answer those. We'll move into the consent agenda. The use of the consent agenda has been made to expedite council action. It contains both resolutions and first reading ordinances, which tonight we do not have, so I'll just skip down. Any council member may request any item on the consent agenda be removed for separate discussion and action under general business. Will the city clerk please read the items on the consent agenda into the record?
The consent agenda consists of items 5 through 7 inclusive. Item 5, Resolution 2016-1, designating the public place for posting notices of public meetings during 2016 pursuant to CRS 24-6-402. Item 6, Resolution 2016-2, a resolution consenting to the dissolution of Indiana Valley Metropolitan District Number 1. And item 7, approving the minutes of the regular city council meeting of December 14th and the special city council meeting of December 14th, both 2015.
Thank you. And prior to going into public comment, is there a presentation, Mr. Cox, on item number 6? Yes, please.
Mr. Mayor, there is a representative here, an attorney representing the Indiana Valley Metro Districts. He's prepared to provide information and answer questions. If that's your preference to have that happen, I might suggest that you pull that from the consent agenda and have it separately.
Okay. Does anybody wish to pull that? Okay. We will then open the public hearing on the consent agenda. Does anybody
Do I need
wish?
to make the motion first?
We'll close this first.
Okay.
Is there anybody who wishes to speak on the consent agenda? All right. With that, I will take a motion, please.
Mayor Paul, I move for the approval of council minutes, for the acceptance of the minutes of boards and commissions, and for adoption of resolutions, all of which are included in the consent agenda items introduced into the record by the city clerk.
I second that.
All right. We have a motion and a second. Please cast your vote.
No, this is the resolutions. Point of question, of information. The vote that we just took, was that for approving just the minutes, or did we also approve both resolutions?
That'd be for the complete.
That was the consent agenda as
Okay.
read for all the items, unless someone wants to remove something, and
Okay.
no one did.
But will we still have the presentation on the,
No, forgive
Indiana.
me if I wasn't clear. What I was trying to say was, if there is a desire for a presentation on that resolution, I would recommend that somebody pull that item from consent, and then we'll have the separate vote after the presentation and any questions and answers. As it happened, nobody pulled any item from consent, so that would have gone forward to the vote. If the desire is to have a presentation on the resolution number 2, then I would say pull that from consent, and we'll do that separately.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to pull that so we can have a presentation on Indiana, please.
Certainly.
So we need, our vote hasn't been shown
not
yet,
shown the
correct?
vote.
So can we do that now?
Well, again, if there was a misunderstanding about what the procedure was and you want to have
I
that
was
information, I think
confused.
it's better to have the information presented to you.
I would like to have the information presented to me.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we will pull item number 6 and put it under general business.
Okay.
So can you clear,
Yes, I'll say that again. Do you want me to make the motion again?
please?
Yes, please, because it's
Okay, let me see if I can do this right the second time. Mr. Mayor Paul, I move for the approval of the council minutes, for the acceptance of the minutes of the boards and commission, and the adoption of Resolution 2016-1, which was included in the consent agenda item introduced into the record by the city clerk. And a second.
I second it.
All right, there's been a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda minus item 16, which is resolution 2016-2. Please cast your votes. And the consent agenda passes with 11 yeas. All right. So we will go ahead and go forth to general business. And I guess we'll take on 6 last, right? And do the, please read items A and B into the record.
Item A, Resolution 2015-3, appointing the President of the City Council of the City of Lakewood.
Okay. And
Mayor Paul,
Go ahead. Before we do that, we need to open the floor for public comment on council president.
On the resolution, yeah.
Okay. So I'll open the floor, or open the audience to public comment on resolution 2015-3. Anybody wish to speak? Nobody wishes to speak. I will close public comment and ask for a motion or a nomination.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to nominate Shakti as president of our council.
Okay.
Mayor Paul, I'd like to second that.
There's a motion and a second to nominate Shakti as council president. Please, before we vote, there's some people that would like to speak. So, Councilor Wickman.
We just came out of an orientation, and one of the things that they pointed out to us is it's important that all the counselors, be treated equally. And I'm noticing that in addition to the officership positions, we also have a number of committee assignments where a lot of the policy making is done. And I'm noticing what seems to be a disproportion. Right now, Shakti has 4 committee assignments, where her Ward 3 colleague, Councilor Roybal, only has 2. And then to make her president, in addition to that, will be 5 assignments, while her colleague only has 2. So I would recommend that if Shakti is going to be our president, that she be reassigned from the screening committee and put in Councilor Roybal in the screening committee.
Okay. Councilor Shakti?
So the role of council president has a lot to do with communication. And I think that that's an important function in any council. And I think perhaps particularly in this council where a lot of us haven't worked together very much. And so I would be happy to play that role and to help facilitate that communication. I also, some people talk to me, and I'm committed to whatever ideas that are brought to me, whether I think they're good ideas or not, I will bring them before the other members of council so that we have appropriate discussion and dialogue that I think is what we want to see in democracy.
Councilor Franks?
I think the only thing I wanted to add was, I'm obviously being new to this position and had read the city charter kind of cover to cover. I was unaware there was even a council president position. And once I came on board, I discovered that there's some additional documentation that I wasn't aware of. So I think long term, I kind of want to go back and kind of parse through that information and kind of see what the charter had said, how this other document came about. But I just wanted to put that on the record that I have some concerns that I don't think the position was part of the city charter, and so just overall concerns.
And thank you for that. And let me just clarify on that. So we do have a rules and regulations, council procedures that has been adopted throughout the years. And this will be a great opportunity. We're about ready to look at, as a body, our new ones, and this will be a great opportunity to look at that. We looked historically to find when kind of the first mentions of council president came into city government. We went all the way back to 1974 and found some 69.
1969, they spoke
69.
about it at a
Yep.
meeting.
So it's been kind of brought up, but definitely something worth doing. And then to clarify Councilor Wickman's statement, it's a tough job trying to assign committees to a group of 10 folks. And I tried to sit down with everybody and ask what was important to them, those folks that were here, and tried to align them in that role. I thought that Councilor Roybal had more than that, and I actually just shifted Shakti off of a committee and placed Ramey Johnson, Councilor Johnson, on that. So we try to have some sort of a level playing field, but I think this was a nice opportunity for people to try to get involved in where they want to be or what they thought would fit their kind of personalities and their leadership styles. So I feel absolutely comfortable going forward with these recommendations and look forward to getting to work with a new set of council officers. And also Councilor Roybal, I'm hopeful will consider, and we've talked about that, getting a new committee or having something that really fits his roles in veteran outreach, and that's something that he's willing to take on and looking at as well. So, Councilor Goodwin?
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering if you could, for everyone here, kind of explain what the council president does, in addition to, Shakti mentioned kind of, aiding communication and just, since it's not in the charter, but it is our procedures, kind of why we have that. And it is.
Certainly. Do you want me to do that, Shakti?
Sure.
Okay. I'll let the candidate for president do that. What's your role?
So when, I think it's communication in general, but also when, part of what the officers do is agenda setting, and what that involves is if somebody has an idea that's not necessarily, that nobody else thinks is a good idea, it might not be something that we need to talk about in a meeting. But if there's interest in the council about having further discussion about an issue, then it is something that we should talk about more at a meeting. So it's collecting that information in order to report it to the rest of council and to the mayor and city manager.
Absolutely. And I can tell you, and I thank Councilor Harrison for her service this last year. This last month and a half, I haven't really, no offense, I haven't had a full set of officers. So, for instance, we've been trying to plan the retreat. And, I'm just one person, but it's nice to try to have those two other people who can communicate with council, and we can work together trying to set that retreat. So that's another role of council president, is really that communication part. Hey, what days are you available? Does this fit into your agenda? Those sorts of things, so we can plan, for our future events and things along those lines. Councilor Abel?
Thank you, Mayor. Our policies and procedures manual very briefly and succinctly outlines the role of the city council president. If our city clerk or a city manager could read that section, that would be enlightening, I believe.
Mayor Paul, I actually have that right in front of me right now, if you want me to go ahead and read that.
Thank you.
Please do.
The primary responsibility of the city council president is to serve as a resource to fellow council members and to coordinate communication to and amongst council members. The council president acts as mayor in the event that either the mayor nor mayor pro tem is available. That's it.
Councilor Franks.
I actually just wanted to chime in and say this policies and procedures document, the Ward 4 meeting that we had this past weekend, people had requested where they could go get that. I happen to have an electronic copy, but that's obviously not the best way of distribution. I want to understand how we can get that document, which does overlay our charter, how we can not only get that online, but get that connected to the charter in the various places where there is an override. So when you get to certain sections, a citizen could read a section and believe they understand how the body works and not know about this entire overlay which changes that, which is what caught me off guard when I came to council.
Thank you, Councilor Franks, and that is something that we'll absolutely look at and try to get that done. I personally couldn't do that, but somebody smarter than me can figure that out. Thank you.
Councilor Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know this conversation might be a little bit awkward for some of us up here, but frankly, I think it is a very healthy process when someone wants to be our president to publicly say what their credentials are and what they bring to the table. I don't know that we've done that in the past, and I like this. This to me is healthy. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Vincent.
Yeah, my question is this, am I on?
I don't think so.
Oh,
They are.
Okay. My question is this started with a number of committees that the Ward 3 have split. I'd kind of like to go back to that and ask Councilor Roybal if he's comfortable. I haven't heard from him. I've heard from others.
Well, after reviewing all the documents, I think I'm comfortable with this.
With the split?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, with no other questions or anybody wishing to speak, I will ask you to cast your vote, please, for council president. I guess I need a vote. All right. This is all still kind of new, first meeting of the year. Display votes, that motion carries, 10 yay, 1 nay, and the nay is Councilor Wickman. Will the clerk please read resolution, or item B, I guess, into the record?
Resolution 2015-4, appointing the mayor pro tem of the city council of the city of Lakewood.
All right, and while it didn't read that in that heading, I am honored to nominate, and it should be in the regular paperwork, Ramey Johnson for mayor pro tem, the city of Lakewood. And I will ask for a second.
Second.
All right.
Actually, can you do that? Can you make the motion?
Yes, it's very rare that the chair can make the motion, but on this one.
And we also want to see if there's any public discussion.
So I will open the floor for public comment, please. No public comment. I'll close. Mr. Abel.
I would ask that Councilman Coop also read the Policies and Procedures Manual regarding the duties of the Mayor Pro Tem, please.
The Mayor Pro Tem is chosen by the mayor, and the choice is ratified by the City Council at the first regular meeting after a study session in December. The council, okay, that is not, here we go. Primary responsibility of the Mayor Pro Tem is to serve in an acting capacity in the absence of the mayor, including presiding over meetings and signing any documents that require a mayoral signature.
And the reason why we did not have this in December is we did not have a full body, so we wanted to make sure there was a full body present for this evening. Councilor Aber, the floor is still yours.
And isn't there a component there that the Mayor Pro Tem, if the mayor is not present, will represent the city in ceremonial functions?
It merely states presiding over meetings and signing any documents that require mayoral signature. I believe in the charter it does mention that. And I do have that right here as well in the charter. Mayor, shall I read that, Mayor Paul?
Please.
It's, for anybody following along, it's Article 2.4. A mayor pro tem shall be selected by the City Council from among its members for a term and in a manner determined by the City Council. In the event of a temporary absence of the mayor pro tem shall perform all duties and have all powers of the mayor.
Thank you.
Councilor Franks.
I just wanted to point out this was another place where, of course, when I just had the city charter, I was under the impression that it would be the city council that would be choosing. And so this is another case where the overlay, again, I came in not realizing that at some point the city had decided by ordinance to change it to where it's a nomination by the mayor and then it's ratified by the city council. So again, I think those things are important, and I think that's where, you know, like I said, just a lot of confusion comes in unnecessarily when we don't see that there's more to it. So just reiterating, that was another point that I was unaware of.
Thank you for pointing that out, and we will make that more clear. Promise. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions or comments? All right, let's vote. And that motion carries. 11 yeas, 0 nays. Congratulations. Councilor Johnson, you'd like to speak?
Thank you, Mayor Paul. And I'd like to thank all of you for your votes tonight. We are navigating in uncharted waters, and frankly, I am not familiar with any time in our recent history that we've had a leadership election quite like this. Yes, there is awkwardness on many levels, and yes, we are all working toward building trust. Traditionally, the mayor pro tem carries the mayor's agenda forward. After sincere, intense, and heartfelt conversation, Mayor Paul approached me regarding the pro tem position. We both value and appreciate and honor our differences. Our only expectation of one another is that we put the good of the citizens first. It must be stated publicly that this was not offered with any expectation regarding a vote. Our commitment to one another is that we will not undermine one another, and both will desperately work for a change in culture on council where all thought has merit and every voice is needed and valued. We are here, after all, to serve you, and both of us understand the necessity of an attitude of servitude and doing this right. This is a learning and growing time for each of us on City Council. And frankly, I anticipate that there's going to be some bumps to overcome. I ask staff to understand we may struggle. Work with us. I ask each council member to take the high ground in our dealings with one another. I humbly ask you, the people, to help recognize that we are here to serve you and help us do that better. Thank you, Mayor Paul, for both your faith in both of us, that together we can show what leadership really looks like. Together, I believe our legacy will be that this council served honorably and set the standard for future councils. Finally, if you believe in prayer, I humbly ask that you hold our city and this council in prayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Johnson. All right, will the clerk please read our final item that was polled?
Resolution 2016-2, a resolution consenting to the dissolution of Indiana Valley Metropolitan District Number 1.
All right, Mr. Cox.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll just give a brief bit of background on this. This is a request that came to us a couple of months ago from the attorneys representing the Indiana Valley Metro districts, and there are plural districts, which Mr. Milkey will explain. And we, quite frankly, very often we get requests like this from special districts. Towards the end of the year, there are some benefits from getting things done before a new calendar year begins. And to his credit, Mr. Milkey cooperated when I suggested that with the new council and the small number of meetings at the end of the year, that it would be best to put this off until January, until everybody could get a little more comfortable in your roles. This is a request per state statute for the city council to consent to the dissolution of one metropolitan district of the Indiana Valley Metro districts. Why there is more than one and why they are seeking the dissolution is something I will leave to Mr. Milkey. This is Colin Milkey, attorney from Sutter and Vanderwall, representing the Indiana Valley Metro districts.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mr. Milkey. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. I anticipate that you'll probably have more questions than you will in the future. This is a pretty perfunctory request of the City Council, but I want to give you a little bit of overview of what we're trying to do here. The Indiana Valley Metro districts are located out near the Colorado Mills Mall, and they operate to provide the public improvements, the capital improvements, the services that you see around the public areas surrounding the mall. In 2001, Indiana Valley Metro District, the original one, was formed. In 2009, there was an amendment to the service plan that brought on Indiana Valley Metropolitan District Number 1. So now you have Indiana Valley Metropolitan District and Indiana Valley Metropolitan District Number 1 that have existed since 2009. The purpose was to have District Number 1 coordinate with the original district to provide the financing, the construction, and the maintenance of those public improvements. What people found out eventually was that there really was no need for District Number 1. Indiana Valley Metropolitan District could handle all of these tasks on its own. So in 2015, the boards of the districts came together, determined that District Number 1 should be dissolved for cost-saving purposes and efficiency purposes. And now here we are tonight asking the city's consent to that dissolution. The main reason is because if the city consents to the dissolution of District Number 1, we can expedite the dissolution process, which essentially means we get to forego having an election on the dissolution process. In this situation, an election is unnecessary because the only voters within this district, which is really just a quarter-acre parcel along Colfax Avenue, the only voters are the board members. So we already know the outcome of the election. So you have the consent that the city provides, which allows us to go directly to the district court. The district court will hold a hearing. Public's allowed to attend the hearing if it likes, just like it can attend the meeting here tonight. Notice is provided beforehand. The judge hears all the evidence regarding the dissolution of the district, makes a determination based on that evidence, and then if the order for dissolution goes through, then it's recorded with the clerk and recorder's office, the division of local government, and the district is then dissolved. One of the important things to understand in this situation is that the dissolution of District Number 1 has no impact on the services or the infrastructure that surrounds Indiana Valley Metropolitan District and the Colorado Mills Mall. District Number 1 has really sat idle since its existence. In addition, consenting to the dissolution has some pretty substantial cost savings. You're not using public funds to hold an election that really has no purpose. And then also, the only expenses of District Number 1 since its inception have been administrative expenses, attorney's fees, accountant's fees, other admin fees. Those go away once the district is dissolved. And there's better ways to use public funds than administrative costs for a government that doesn't really do much. So we're requesting that the city consent to the dissolution tonight. If you have questions regarding special districts in general or these particular districts, I'm happy to answer them. But really, I'd just like to open it up to all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Milkey. Any questions? Councilor Harrison.
Thank you for your presentation. I really appreciate that. This is the first time I've been part of a dissolution of a special district, so I have to ask a couple of what I perceive to be simple questions. Is there money in this special district? It sounds like there's not, correct?
Not this one. No, Indiana Valley Metro District, the original one, has been advancing funds to District Number 1 to cover the cost.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you, Mr. Milkey.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much, Council.
Thanks for coming out. Now open the public hearing on this resolution. Anybody wish to speak? Seeing nobody, I will close the public hearing and ask for a motion and a second, please.
Mayor Paul, I move for the approval of Resolution 2016-2 as presented.
I'll second that.
All right, we got some seconds. Motion has been a motion and seconded. No more discussion. Please cast your vote. Ms. Vincent? Yeah. All right. There you go. Easy. 11 yeas, 0 nays. Motion carries. And we are getting close to the end. Item 9, executive report. Ms. Hodson.
Thank you. I have a short one. First, I would like to congratulate our new Mayor Pro Tem, Councilor Johnson, and our new Council President, Councilor Shakti. And I look forward to, we as staff look forward to working with you this year. So congratulations. And your seats are going to change, and we'll do our motions a little more smoothly, potentially. Maybe, maybe not. So congratulations. I also wanted to tell you about a new permanent artwork display. Have you seen it? Right here in the Civic Center? Let me tell you a little bit about it. It's called Heritage and Promise. And if you haven't seen it, it's right here in our lobby, and it's between the grand staircases that go to the second floor. I think it's beautiful, and I hope you do too. Let me tell you a little bit about it. Again, it's called Heritage and Promise. It was done by an artist named Carol Fennell. She's a local artist. She's from the metro area. So this artwork is made up of 16 tiles that stretch across the whole wall, and it reflects the history of Lakewood and the future that it promises to be. The tiles are made from clay that have been sketched, carved, textured with imagery, and fired in a kiln. Layers of paint top the surface, creating a bright and whimsical touch. Each tile sets the scene for a piece of Lakewood. So spend a moment and look at this beautiful artwork, and you'll see different elements of our beautiful city. By layering the various images together, the wall represents the city as a whole. From the rich history and promise, we look to the future. So this piece of artwork was commissioned through the Public Art Committee in 2015, and this piece was in the process of being installed today. So there's going to be a printed flyer with more detail about each tile, and that'll be available by the end of the week. So do spend a moment and look at it. I think it's beautiful and really brightens up an otherwise boring wall. It's lovely, and it's a permanent display, commissioned and is owned by the city now. So that's my good news. Please go and spend a couple of moments looking at it, and thank you.
It looks fantastic. It's a really nice addition to what was just a blank wall for a long time. It's really cool. So my report, I don't have anything. It's been really quiet. Thanks for coming out and enjoying our first meeting of the year. I think it's going to be a good year. We're going to work really hard to do some great things. And again, I'd like to thank Councilor Harrison for her service as our past president. And I'll start on my left and start with Councilor Roybal.
Mayor, thank you. I have no report at this time.
You ready for me? Okay. Hi, we're Councilor Coop and I were going back and forth because this is an exciting announcement, and I think we both wanted to make it, and he was gracious enough to allow me. The Sprouts is opening up at First and Wadsworth this Wednesday. Woohoo! The ribbon cutting is at 7 a.m. So everybody's just really thrilled about this. It's been a while coming. And then you're all welcome, for those of you who live in Ward 2, to then dash over and join the Ward 2 meeting at 7:30 a.m., and that is at the 40 West Arts. And that's it.
Thank you. Councilor Coop. Tina?
No report, and also just wanted to congratulate Councilwoman Johnson and Councilwoman Shakti.
Congratulations to both of you. You will do a wonderful job. I'm looking forward to communicating with everybody. The second thing I want to remind those in Wards 3, 4, and 5 that we're having a combined meeting. It was previously called COPS Community and Council. I think that's what we're going to call it in Wards 3, 4, and 5, but it is set up for January 21st at 6:30 p.m. And we're very excited about having that, and it will be at the community room across the way here. And there will be snacks. So eat dinner first and come and have snacks, okay? Thank you. Oh, and because we're having this combined meeting, you never can give, once you get the microphone, you never want to give it up. Because we're having this combined meeting, our Ward 5 meeting would be the week before, and we decided we're going to combine everything all in the same meeting. So Ward 5, no meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Franks.
Hi. I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank everybody who came out to our Ward 4 meeting this past weekend. The turnout was much bigger than expected, and we kind of scrambled to get our seating and set up. Really appreciate the interactiveness and how much people participated. We did want to reach out and make sure that people know that we are always open to ideas for speakers. So please let us know if there's certain topics, things that we can let staff know, so we can get enough lead time to make sure we can prepare for those. I know a couple people after the meeting said they kind of missed that portion of it, but we did it kind of a little more free form. Lots of good content, and we really appreciate y'all coming out. Thank you.
Councilor Wickman.
Everybody's covered it.
Pro Tem Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a little statement that I would like to get out publicly. The Federal Center is in Ward 1, and I think you've all heard about the new proposal with the unaccompanied minors. On December 30th, the federal government of Health and Human Services surprised us with new information that the Denver Federal Center was chosen as a site to establish a 1,000-bed facility for unaccompanied juveniles from Central America. This is not small potatoes. The government's plan is to house thousands of juveniles. 75% will be 14 to 17, 25% from age 7 to 13, from Central America, who were apprehended, that's the word that's been used, by Congressman Perlmutter, at the border with the specific intent of claiming asylum and the belief that they will remain in the U.S. During a phone call on New Year's Eve, I and my colleagues questioned HHS officials regarding the vetting process for these juveniles, verifying their age, past criminal history, and the complicity of the Mexican government in aiding the juveniles in their trek overland. Remember, these juveniles do not have passports. No answer to these questions were provided because HHS claimed that these public policy issues were the responsibility of another department, Homeland Security. Because of the holiday and the haste with which HHS had organized the call on the morning of New Year's Eve, no representative from Homeland Security was available. It needs to be stated that our mayor had asked in advance for a government representative to provide answers to your questions. We deserve honesty and complete disclosure. So far, we haven't gotten it. I learned from the newspaper that Congressman Perlmutter has toured the site, and I am hopeful that maybe City Council can do the same. Beyond these basic questions, we as a city need to determine the impacts to our infrastructure, our first responders, law enforcement, healthcare providers, fire protection, and traffic control. These juveniles are coming across our southern border in suddenly alarmingly high numbers. They traveled many hundreds of miles in order to get to the U.S. without their parents or other family, and probably paid a large sum of money to illegal smugglers. Why is this being allowed by the Mexican and U.S. government? That's a question that needs to be asked. As a nurse, my record speaks for itself regarding compassion towards humanity. The juveniles are here, so we have an obligation to do what we can. They not only need food, shelter, clothing, medical care, and education, but also their spiritual and moral needs will need to be addressed by spiritual leaders in our community. Past experience has shown that these children are quartered in situations similar to warehousing and internment. Does that feel comfortable to you? Lakewood has become ground zero for the U.S. government's failed immigration and foreign policy. This is my opinion. Our citizens are being asked to bear the burden for past mistakes of the government. I will continue to ask the difficult questions that need to be answered honestly. We deserve that. We need to know the truth. Thank you.
Councilor Abel?
Our Ward 1 meeting will be Saturday the 16th at Holy Shepherd Church at 9th and Kipling. We'll have a 2-hour meeting this time around, starting at 9 a.m. We will address some questions about a dust-up over the consolidated mutual billing that seems to have captured attention in Ward 1 over the past couple of months, and we will also have a discussion of the HHS facility. Folks can ask questions, and we'll answer as best as we can. Thank you.
Our President Shakti.
I had the opportunity to, so once a year Brady High School has an event where they invite in people from different careers to speak to high school classes. So I got to speak to 5 different high school classes about being on city council. And it was interesting. For one thing, high school students are pretty blunt about how they feel, so it led to some pretty honest conversations. And hopefully some of them are inspired to enter public service at some point.
Very nice. All right. Councilor Gutwein lit up her light. Go to her real quick.
Thank you. I hadn't prepared to make a comment about the Federal Center and the unaccompanied children, but just wanted to kind of continue that a little bit and with some other language maybe to add to the conversation. And so in the Denver Post article, it does explain that the children are unaccompanied minors, 17 and younger, who are escaping poverty or child trafficking in their home countries. And so I think that it is important to make sure that our community is not going to be negatively impacted. And I have also heard a lot of outreach from our community wanting to help. So I think those are both important perspectives.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councilor Franks?
Well, I just wanted to add, when I attended the meeting, there was a lot, we were trying to impart to them that there was local, spiritual leaders and that might want to participate. We were actually told that that's not something that's possible. So I just wanted to make sure that people weren't encouraged to start gathering things. They assured us that the financial needs, their healthcare needs, their clothing, their tutoring, all of that was going to be met. So I just didn't want people starting to maybe amass. You might want to check first before you start amassing any kind of help.
Councilor Shakti.
Not being an expert on this, which I think none of us are, but my understanding is that it may be possible to volunteer, donate, or whatever, but you don't do it directly with the federal government. You have to work through an organization that is providing services to the government.
And I'll just close with, we have that information as to the contact person at Health and Human Services. So if you are interested, reach out to one of us and we can get you in touch with them, or you can reach out to Congressman Perlmutter's office, and I'm sure that they'll be more than happy to help. So with that said, this was a great meeting. Go Broncos. Let's hope for a victory here this Sunday, and we are adjourned.
Like a bell that is ringing for you and you and you and from the way that I feel when that bell starts to peal, I could swear I was falling. I'd swear I was falling almost like the end in love, yeah, almost like the